before time itself stretched across the heavens, before the stars burned their first fire, before even night cast her veil upon creation, there was Ananke. She was not a child of chaos. She was not born from earth or sky. She was necessity itself, the eternal law that binds gods, mortals, and cosmos alike. Ananke is not love, nor fear, nor wrath. She is inevitability. She is the chain no one can break, the path no one can turn aside, the decree that stands even when thrones fall. Where Nyx is the veil of darkness, where Moros is the shadow of doom, Ananke is greater still, for she is the reason that doom must come, the law that night must fall, the truth that no god may escape. Her form is carved in gray eternal stone, her body draped in ancient cloth heavy as the ages. Her gaze is neither kind nor cruel. It is calm, eternal, unyielding. She does not judge, for there is nothing to judge. She does not punish, for there is nothing to forgive. She simply endures, and through her endurance all things must bend. The ancients spoke of her as the goddess who circled the cosmos, binding it in her arms. She was the great inevitability, the mother of order, the force against which even the Olympians could not rebel. Zeus hurled thunder, Poseidon shook the seas, Hades ruled the dead, but Ananke was beyond them all. For what use is thunder if destiny is fixed? What use are seas if the law of necessity demands silence? What use is death if even death must bow to inevitability? Ananke bore no temple, for temples crumble. She bore no crown, for crowns break. She bore no hymns, for even songs fall into silence. And yet, her worship was constant. Every step taken upon the earth was hers. Every breath drawn was hers. Every death endured was hers. Every birth owed itself to her decree. The philosophers spoke of her. They feared her name, yet they needed it. For without Ananke, the stars would wander without path. The seasons would fail. The sun would not rise, and the moon would not fade. She was not chaos, but the chain that held chaos. She was not order, but the law that made order possible. Mortals prayed to Zeus for victory, to Poseidon for calm seas, to Demeter for harvests. But whether victory came or not, whether seas raged or calmed, whether harvests grew or failed, it was Ananke who had already written the answer. For she is the necessity that shapes all things. Even choice bends to her. Even chance is bound by her. In myth, she was said to stride beside Chronos, time himself. Together they were the eternal pair, time and necessity. He moved forward endlessly, and she bound his motion, guiding it upon one path and no other. Without Chronos, there is no motion. Without Ananke, there is no direction. Together they weave the fate of gods and men. She is the silent architect of destiny. The fates spin and measure and cut, but even they bow to Ananke, for the fates work within necessity, and Ananke is the law that permits no change. Her chains are invisible, but they bind stronger than iron. Her voice is silent, but it resounds louder than thunder. Her presence is unseen, but it shapes the course of stars. When mortals rise in pride, when kings declare themselves eternal, when gods proclaim their power, it is Ananke who waits, not to strike them down, not to rage against them, but simply to remind them that nothing escapes necessity. All thrones fall, all crowns fade, all names are erased, and when the final silence comes, it will be Ananke who stands, unchanged, unbroken, eternal. She is not beloved. She is not feared in the same way as war or death. She is deeper, more inevitable. Mortals do not run from her, for where could they run? They do not fight her, for how can one fight inevitability? Instead, they live within her, as fish within the sea, as stars within the void. They breathe her necessity. They are shaped by her silence. The poets called her the unyielding one. The philosophers called her the axis of existence. The mystics called her the silent mother. And though their words differed, their truth was the same. She is beyond all things, and all things exist within her. When the universe burns away, when the last light dies, when gods themselves fall into silence, there will be no war, no cry, no triumph. There will only be Ananke, unmoved, unbroken, eternal. Before there was order, before there was chaos, before even the breath of gods filled the void, there was Ananke, the one who is necessity, the one who is inevitability. She did not come into being. She did not awaken from darkness. She simply was, a presence older than time, a law older than stars, a truth older than destiny. Ananke does not move with haste, for she is movement itself. She does not speak, for every silence already echoes her decree. She does not command, for there is no choice outside her will. She is the boundary of all things, the invisible wall against which even gods must lean, the chain that circles cosmos and keeps it whole. Mortals called upon Zeus, and thunder answered. They cried to Poseidon, and waves obeyed. They begged Hades, and death opened its gates. But Ananke was different. She could not be begged. She could not be bribed. For she is not a force to be persuaded. She is the path itself. Her presence is the certainty that what must happen will happen. In the old tales, philosophers whispered that Ananke and Chronos, time, walked together at the dawn of creation. They spiraled around the newborn cosmos, binding it with their embrace. Time gave it motion, necessity gave it shape. Together they spun the stars into their paths, set the seasons to their endless circle, and placed every living thing within its boundary. Without Chronos, there would be no flow. Without Ananke, there would be no direction. And so the universe began. Her image is carved in eternal stone, a goddess veiled, her body draped in heavy cloth, her eyes unblinking, her face calm, unyielding. No smile, no frown, only stillness. For Ananke does not change. She is the same yesterday, today, and always. The fates, the Morai, who weave the threads of mortals, are her daughters. Clotho spins, Lachesis measures, Atropos cuts. But even they are bound by Ananke. They weave only what necessity allows. Their scissors cut only where inevitability has already placed the end. Thus, even destiny itself is a child of necessity. And even gods bow to her law. When kings swore eternal reigns, Ananke was there, silent, waiting. When cities rose with pride, she lingered at their foundations, for she knew they would one day fall. When empires stretched across continents, she circled them in her chains, patient, unbreaking, not with malice, not with vengeance, but with inevitability. For nothing endures beyond her decree. The ancients did not raise temples to her. What temple could contain inevitability? What walls could hold necessity? What songs could capture silence? And yet they worshipped her in every breath, every promise unkept, every dream unfinished, every life that began and ended. All were offerings to Ananke. She was their unseen altar, their unspoken prayer, their inescapable truth. Ananke is not chaos, for chaos is without form. Ananke is not order, for order can be broken. She is beyond both, the law that underlies them, the fabric upon which all is written. She is not chance. She is not choice. She is the reason chance exists, the reason choice matters, and the reason both end. Even Zeus, the king of gods, spoke her name with caution. For thunder can break mountains, but it cannot break necessity. Poseidon could flood the world, but his waves still follow the law of her pull. Hades could claim souls, but only when she allowed the thread to be cut. She is the greater truth behind their thrones. They reign, but they reign within her. When mortals look upon the stars, they see the endless night, but behind every constellation is Ananke's unseen hand, drawing the lines that cannot be moved. The stars circle, the planets dance, the galaxies swirl, and all follow her law. Even the cosmos itself is her temple, an eternal shrine to inevitability. She is not cruel, though she is merciless. She is not kind, though she gives balance. She is not enemy nor ally. She is the reason both exist. When a child is born, Ananke is there, holding the thread that will one day end. When lovers meet, she is there, knowing their story before the first word. When soldiers fall in battle, she is there, not with anger, but with silence. For what must happen, happens, and nothing can change it. The ancients feared her, but they also found comfort in her. For if nothing escapes her law, then even suffering has purpose, even sorrow has meaning, even endings are part of her embrace. Thus, they spoke of her not as an enemy, but as the mother of truth, not as a destroyer, but as the unchanging one. When the universe burns its final fire, when the last star fades, when gods themselves fall silent, Ananke will not end. She will stand as she always has, veiled, unbroken, unyielding, the eternal chain, the inevitable path, the silence beyond all voices, the law beyond all laws. She is Ananke, necessity incarnate, the eternal mother, the fate that cannot be undone.